Okay, happy Monday, everyone. Michelle Gomez here, coming to you from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Los Angeles for the College Bound program for teens. And today's lesson is on time management. The last College Bound class that we had focused around stress management. And I thought, well, since we're talking about stress management, what is another tactic to kind of support and manage stress? So then I figured we would talk a little bit about time management, which is a key piece when not just planning for college, but really planning for graduation and planning a balanced life as a teenager. So let's go ahead and get started. When we're talking about time management, you really have to realize that it's a myth, right? There are only so many hours in the day, and you really can't get back hours. But what you can do is really kind of learn to prioritize, learn to shuffle things, learn to minimize activities that don't really create a productive schedule, right? So this idea of time management, it's a myth, right? It's not real. There is no perfect balance of time because everything in the life that you live changes and you can't really manage some of the things that might arise, right? All we can do is be as prepared as possible. So let's take a little bit of time and do a quick activity. So if you don't already have a piece of paper or something near you, go ahead and grab something nearby, just any little thing to jot, a piece of paper, a pencil, a pen, it could be a napkin, it could be, just whatever's available. On this little sheet of paper, I want you to write down at least 3 things you feel personally you waste time on. I put some examples here of what those items could be that you might feel like, hey, I waste a lot of time on this, or you might even feel like it's not a waste of time, right? It's something I really enjoy to do, but maybe it cuts into some of the things you have to do. So things like watching Netflix, being on social media, playing video games, maybe, you happen to really enjoy sports and, it's making you suffer in other areas, or you enjoy dancing and it's affecting you, in other aspects. So something that you feel is stopping you from doing what you have to do because it's something that maybe you overly enjoy to do and it's not really being the most productive use of your time. So once you write those 3 things down, kind of put that to the side, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what these things are and how to know more about them, right? So to bring a little perspective into that list, really think about what's on there because these activities are what you have a hard time resisting and doing. What I call these triggers, right? These are things that maybe you're on a roll on your 5-page essay, you're in page 3, you're almost done, but then you hear ding and it's your phone, right? And immediately you're like, oh, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm going to look at my phone, right? And that's okay, right? It's normal. We live in a world where, we have a wide variety of technological things that keep us connected, but it also really can stop us from being productive sometimes. So that list that you created are your triggers. And the first step in managing those triggers is recognizing them, right? Seeing them on this piece of paper, saying it out loud, hey, these are the things I really have a hard time staying away from, will help you then manage it later on. So that list, keep it with you. Again, it's something for you to recognize and really think about as we're going through the presentation today. So we're going to talk about goals, right? And you're probably thinking goals, like I set these all the time. What are you talking about? Well, how does this have to really, do with just day-to-day time management? And the reason I'm talking about goals is because you have to ask yourself, what can I change, right? You can't change time, you can't add more hours to your day, but you can change the behaviors on that list that you wrote down. Right. And I think the first step is the intentionality behind what you want to get accomplished with these triggers. So setting goals should have a purpose, right? And maybe these triggers are, in a way, your reward system. For example, maybe my trigger is my cell phone. Again, I hear that ding and I have to look at it. So then I will do maybe a reward system centered around it. I'm going to put my cell phone away for an hour while I do homework, and as a reward, I will get a 30-minute break before I continue doing my homework. So that way, if you know, like, hey, if I get through this 1 hour without my cell phone, I get a 30-minute break. If I don't, I have to restart and go back to that 1 hour of doing homework until I can see my phone. Another example might be putting the internet on your computer on airplane mode, right? Cutting the internet completely off. That way, because sometimes I know even I do this, right? I subconsciously go and I'll open up my email when I should be working on something else, a spreadsheet that I already started. So maybe, putting the internet off so that you can get that project done and set yourself a timeline, right? If I get 2 pages of this done, I can go and check my social media. And I think that way you set goals utilizing some of those triggers as rewards. The last example I put here is maybe like you complete your math homework for the day by a certain time. Maybe, you get home at 3 or at 2:30 and you want to finish it by, 4. This will give you a reward of maybe 1 hour of video game play, right? And you have to be the judge of this, right? Because who better to set rewards for yourself than you, because you know what you want to do. Now, if you want to incorporate a parent or guardian in this, that'd be great too, because maybe your reward is, hey, I love to see my friends. Hey, mom, dad, parent, guardian, grandma, aunt, whoever it is, after I do 1 hour of homework, would it be possible for you to drop me off at my friend's house for, another hour? So just kind of set those rewards, work with the people that, can help you get that reward, and just set a goal around it. So with this planning, phase, it's something that you have to continually do, but really continue to assess yourself. So create a longer term plan so that it's not just something you're practicing here and there, but really focus on one thing, right? So I put an example on here as well. Let's say you're a crazy overuser of TikTok. Maybe stage 1 is, hey, I use TikTok like 6 hours a day. Maybe I want to cut that down to 3 hours a day. So stage 1 is you trying to stay with 3 hours of TikTok a day. Stage 2 might be like, okay, it's been a week. I got this down. I'm only using TikTok for 3 hours every day at most, no more. So check how you're feeling. Hey, I turned in all my assignments early, or I was able to finish my homework by 5 and I had more time. Really assess and checkpoint, right? If you relapsed and you kept using it, check back and say, has anything changed? Do I feel less stressed? Do I feel better? If not, then it's time to go back to stage 1 and try it again. If you're ready to move forward, you go to stage 3 and maybe you increase your goal and say, hey, I want to cut back more because this feels great. Having my homework done early is awesome, or gave me additional time to go see my friends. It made my parents or guardians happy, and now they're taking me to the movies with my friends on the weekend. So now I want to do more of it. Increasing so that slowly you start kind of managing more of that usage and keep checking for how you feel, right? If you feel like you're out of balance, you're like, hey, 2 hours of TikTok a day is perfect. I can get my stuff done. I'm going to keep it at that. Keep it at that. If you feel like you're still a little overwhelmed, maybe there's something else you need to target, then it's time to adjust that plan, right? But keep checking yourself for how you're feeling, make accommodations as needed, but always ask yourself, how is this change making me feel with my load of work, with my load of stress, with how much time I have for me? Okay. So what are some tools that you can use for time management? We live in a world where literally there are so many things you could utilize to help you with time management. There are lots of apps that are like social media limiters that can either tell you how much time you spend on social media, because I bet a lot of us don't even know how much time we're actually on social media. So I challenge you to do this, right? Download one of these free social media like usage apps and see how much time you're spending on these different social media outlets, whether it's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's, something else, and then determine like, hey man, maybe you're shocked. You're like, hey, this is a lot of time. I didn't know I was this, long on this device. Or maybe it's a little bit and you're thinking, wow, I didn't know I wasn't even on social media that much. Where else am I spending my time? There are also other tools to help you with this, like blocking websites. I know that, on your web browser, you might be able to block certain sites, and, you can do this yourself just as a means to kind of, for an hour or two while you're working on a project. Another thing I know, even I used to do when I was in high school or college, is I would ask one of my friends to change my social media passwords and not tell me what they were until my final exams were over. This would help me stay away from social media and focus on what I needed to get done at hand. Again, it's a great way to kind of just stay disconnected, but focused on what you need to get done so you have more time to do what you want to do. You can also hide your device. Again, maybe you give it to someone that you trust. Maybe you put it somewhere, where you cannot find it, at least for a certain time frame. There's lots of tools you can use to kind of get organized. First, be sure to prioritize. I think that's the biggest thing. If you're setting a schedule, make sure that you're highlighting what needs to be done versus what is something you'd like to get done. Maybe you put down, I need to for sure get my homework done, go to practice, and visit my friend Jojo because they've been asking about me and that's a priority to me. Then that way what the rest of the stuff that comes after that can kind of be put on the side until these other items get done. So start your day and ask yourself, right, what needs to get done and what do I want to do versus, just doing everything all at once and feeling like you have a million things to do, but not enough time. Eliminate distractions, right? Again, going back to that trigger list, always know what your triggers are, what your weak points are. Don't eliminate them, right? You don't have to live in a world where you're not on social media, where you're not playing video games, but really know how to rearrange those into other parts of your schedule. Setting that routine will be a special way for you to kind of get things done so that you have more time to do some of these things that we call time wasters, but are really maybe part of your self-care routine. Okay. And then growth, right? Maximizing your time is important because you have to understand that hours can change in any given time. I started the presentation by talking to you all about how, we can only work with what we have, right? You never know what might happen on a day. An emergency might come up and your schedule goes entirely out the window. And that's okay, right? Understanding that. But also know that there are time gaps that you can maximize, right? A couple of these things that I listed here are some time gaps that I feel you could always find ways to stay more productive during. I'll give you an example. Sometimes, you go to the doctor or you go into the dentist and you're sitting in a lobby anywhere for 30 minutes to maybe an hour. This can be time where you can be very productive. You can read a book, you can do some homework, you can chat with a friend you've been meaning to talk to. Use this time. Don't let it go to waste. Don't just sit there on the social media app unless that is your time that you've scheduled for you to be on social media. Eating is another time, right? If, you haven't caught up with your big sister or your little brother and, maybe you feel like you don't have enough time, have a meal with them together. Maybe have schedule a lunch with a friend that you've been meaning to catch up with. These are, we spend 3 times a day eating. So use this time productively to catch up with other people. And then travel is another one, en route to places, right? On your way to school, on your way back home, maybe you're on the bus, maybe you're going on a field trip. Always use these time gaps wisely, right? If you're going to use them for social media, make sure that that is the time you scheduled for your social media usage for the day. If not, be productive. Again, do your homework, read that book you need to read for class. Utilize that time wisely. Don't just sit there, do something. And then practice daily, right? Practice makes perfect. Thinking ahead of what makes the best use of your time. Always think in the future, like what do I need to get done, maybe more longer term. And we'll go a little bit more when we talk about setting goals. We'll have a whole presentation on this, short-term goals versus long-term goals. But right now we're just using the idea of goals as a short-term, but also really start thinking about what does the long-term look like. In summary, right, make sure you're setting goals for yourself when it comes to your time management. Create rewards out of things that you might consider triggers. Prioritize your schedule ruthlessly, right? The time that you have is limited. We cannot change time, we can only manage it. And set routines to help you analyze your checkpoints with how you're feeling with the changes you've made. And I'll end with a little quote here that I found to be interesting, right? Because it says, time is what we want most of, but what we use worse. So make sure you're utilizing your time wisely, not just to do things you need to, but to really find time for yourself. And that's all I have for today's presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at eclub@bgcmla.org. Thank y'all. Hope you have a great week. See you at the next session.